Good evening. Welcome to Football Focus Weekly. I'm the pet man, Matt Morrow. Very excited to finally be back and doing the show. The big thing the past couple of weeks has been covering spring practices. Been out on the road, went to a lot of schools. It started really back in April with Lordsville. Then we went to, Palisades and I know I'm gonna forget some. We went to a lot of schools in Cabarrus County, Cox Mill, Hickory Ridge, Central Cabarrus, Concord, um, and then we hit a couple schools here in the county with Harding, Rocky River, and others that I know that I'm forgetting, but because of that, did not do the show the past couple weeks, but we're back. And it's exciting to be back. So I appreciate, everybody, taking some time out, checking in. Hope everybody had a good Memorial Day weekend. Obviously, one of the things we've been talking about leading up, to it was the CFI Spring Showcase. And it was a really, really fun event. I'm going to start the show talking about that. And to kind of start out with the recap, I'm going to share our highlight video that was done very well by Sumter Productions, who does a lot of our video and some of our photo stuff. So I'm going to share that, and then I'm going to come back and talk about a lot of the top performers and then what went in, what went into pulling off the showcase, because there's a lot of moving parts that go into doing a showcase like we did. So I'm going to get this on the screen. I don't know why it's not coming up. It's weird. But give me 1 second here, and we'll get this going. Let's see. Got a little technical issues. I just did it 5 minutes ago, and it was good. There we go. All right, we'll go with this. And we're going to do the recap.
Of what we believe in, standing on top of what we believe in, standing on top of what we believe in.
Y'all ready to work? Yes, sir. All right, good. Let's wake up now. It's time.
Never surrender or throw the white flag, standing on top of what we believe in. Throwing that water, I didn't panic, I didn't sink, stood tall in when the smoke, you gotta clear the air, turn the fan on, chopper ring at your doorstep, no ding dong, ain't nobody in the middle, Malcolm and a monkey gone, short, like 5'2", calling me alone, them know it ain't beef, we just don't get along, low came 12 hours later, it was all gone, 2022, my still flip phone, dog, call it horse, cut the engine on, it like, oh, herb. Got a long neck like an ostrich, chopstick. I keep my buddy Drake cash money. Do it him it hurt. He don't feel good. I think my chop sick. Toxic. She ever lock her heart. I got a lock pick. Mix and match my fabrics when I dress. I got on that music band. I make it still clap like a tambourine. Automatic clock. It sound like drum rolls on the scene. Take them out of orchestrator. How the hell he made it sound? They say we don't never chill. I get better when it's but I spend money on my watch. Mirrors must have bought Tyson. Jeans got a lot of knots. Yeah, that with a boot, she must have parked in the wrong spot. Standing on top of what we believe in. Doping that water, I didn't panic. I didn't sink, stood tall in the deep end. Never surrender or throw the white flag. Standing on top of what we believe in. Doping that water, I didn't panic. I didn't sink, stood tall in the deep end.
That's what CFI does. We put you in front of those college coaches to give you a chance to get a scholarship to play college football. That's how you gotta want it. You gotta show these guys that you want to be there and that you're better than your opponent. You can't sit back and wait.
So that was a brief recap what the CFI showcase was back on May 18th at West Mecklenburg High School. As you can see throughout the video, there are plenty of college coaches there. Really want to thank those college coaches for coming out and supporting, not only us at CFI, but we ended up having 250 kids in attendance, which it's very difficult to have that many kids on one field in one session. And we had to compress it. We like to do 2 sessions, to have things run ideally, but all the coaches did a great job in making sure everyone got reps, everyone got seen, and there were a lot of kids there that were very talented, and some of them were top performers throughout the showcase. And I want to talk about those kids for a brief minute here. So you saw in the video how intense the defensive line and offensive line one-on-ones were. And they really were. I mean, I think everyone competed hard throughout the whole showcase, but when we get down to those one-on-ones, that group was really not only talented, but very passionate. And that's what college coaches are looking for. And if you were there, a lot of the college coaches gravitated, to that area, especially as we got toward the end of the camp. So standouts, it's always hard to kind of separate when you have a lot of talent, but in the defensive line, Mason Greer from Northwestern, Amarian Hayes from East Forsyth, Corbin Mitchell from Corinth Holders, Malachi Jefferson from James Island, and Garrison Dibble from Atkins were the top 5 defensive linemen at this camp. And for this camp, because there was so much talent across the board, we didn't name MVPs, and I thought that was a good thing to do, because it was really hard to say one person stood out more than the group. I think the groups, especially in those positions, were really strong. Specifically in this group, Garrison Dibble picked up an offer from Gardner Webb right after the showcase, and Gardner Webb was there. So every time I say a kid gets an offer from our showcase, it was worth all the effort, even if it's just one. And we had we had multiple kids, and I'll talk about them here in a little bit. And we'll have more as time goes on. The big thing with these camps is it gives an opportunity for a lot of kids to get on a recruiting board. And when I say get on a recruiting board, it means a coach is going to put their name down and rank that kid against other players that they're recruiting. And as kids commit to other schools, their names move up the recruiting board. They also could move down on the recruiting board if other kids, perform well, and they get moved up or down. But the main thing is you want to get on the board, and that's what these showcases do. No matter what class you're in, if you perform well, you're going to get on the board. So that happened for a lot of these kids. I've talked with several college coaches who were really impressed with the number one, the turnout, and number 2, the talent. So for the offensive linemen in this top 5 group, we had Grayson Sykes from Fort Mill, Sadiq Kamenis Ali from Independence, Keondae Marsh from Huff, Andrew Wright from South Point, and Jordan Shaw from Mallard Creek. Really good offensive line group. And there are some kids that played really well that were not in that top 5 group. But I know Sadiq from Independence got an offer from Graceland. Keondae Marsh also got an offer from Graceland. And I had to go back and look. I think maybe, I won't say that. I'm not sure. I have to double check on a couple of those kids, but that offensive line group was impressive. I talked to a couple of coaches specifically about some of those kids. It was a really, really good group, an intense group. Keondae was a top performer from our winter showcase as well. And he's making a really strong case to be probably the best center in that 25 class. He's him, and there's a kid up in Roseville High School in the Raleigh area that are really, really good. I think those are the top two centers in the 25 class for sure across the state. Um, and if I'm missing somebody, I'm sorry, but I've studied those two extensively. I can speak to them for sure. Um, we also had some really good skilled people in attendance. The quarterback group, I thought this quarterback group was interesting because um, we had a lot of new names in this group, and we're coming into a year. We talked about it previously on the show, where in Charlotte we have a lot of senior quarterbacks. One of them, Grayson Harvey, was a top performer in this group. But the other four are names that are, coming into situations where they have a lot of opportunity to prove themselves, and they're all kind of in different places. The one I know you guys don't know because he's from Atlanta is Thomas Young from Greater Atlanta Christian, and 6'3" kid, really good arm, dual threat quarterback. Um, he really got on the board of a couple schools because they didn't know him, and I didn't know much about him either. He's a left-hander, very talented, really good player. The next two are stepping into situations where they have big shoes to fill. Christian Myers from Porter Ridge. Obviously, we know the previous Porter Ridge quarterback is now at Myers Park. If you didn't know that, that did happen. So Christian Myers has a great opportunity. 6'3" kid, really, really fundamentally sound. I like the way he throws the football. Just from a fundamental standpoint, really smooth over the top delivery. And then Braden Rediger from Marvin Ridge stepped in last season um, when Evan Metters was hurt and did a good job. I really went back and looked at his film after he was named top 5 here, and he can really put the ball in some good places. I really like his ball placement. Um, I went to the Union County. That's the one I missed when I was talking about where I went during the spring. I went to the Union County shared practice day at Marvin Ridge and watched him throw some. And really impressive young man. I think he's gonna do a really good job in that offense. And then the one to really watch, David Echeverria from Hickory Grove. He trains with the engine, Kenneth McClamrock, who of course has been on the show for years. But wow, this kid is a 2028 kid. I believe he's 6'4". I think he's 6'4". As a 28 kid, he's an upcoming freshman. And just from that size alone, he's going to be somebody to watch. But really good fundamentals as you would expect from who he's training with and being coached by. Who he's being coached by the same coach that coached Sam Howell in high school over at Hickory Grove. So he's getting some really good coaching, and he's going to be a name to definitely watch for sure. From the running back perspective, he had a really good mix of, a couple of, really one real speed back, and Curtis Clark from Mallard Creek, who's really a talented, fast kid who's part of I think they won the state championship in track. He's a part of a really strong relay team. I knew he was going to do well. I was excited to see him come out and do well. So I think, he'll have a chance to have a really big breakout season this year. Caleb Frederick from Aycock High School. I saw he just got an offer from St. Andrews. Congratulations to Caleb. Really good physically looking kid. Jaden Nordveit from North Iredale. When I wrote about him, I said he's the best running back in the Charlotte metro area that nobody knows because of where he is. He's a 3-down back. He can catch the ball at the backfield, really good speed. And he's got really good vision. That was one thing I really loved when I watched his highlight film. Jaden Williams from Butler. We know about him. Obviously, he had a big year last year. I think he had over 1,700 on the ground, double-digit touchdowns, 3-down back, excellent vision, catches the ball very well out the backfield. And then Elijah Bacon from Garner. He's a bigger back, 5'11", 210, but he moves very well. Um, really good feet, good speed. I think he has a chance to finally get into the spotlight this upcoming season and do a really good job. Let's see here. Of course, Miss Watts is here. Happy hump day. Good to see you, Kim. Karen Belk is here as usual. Thank you, Karen, for watching. Looked like a great showcase. Thanks to all that help. Yeah. Thank you to everyone that helped. That these things don't get done without a ton of help from a lot of people. That's for sure. Um, there are so many people to thank, from the coaches that did a great job running the camp and the drills and everything, to West Mecklenburg High School, who were really good hosts. To the parents that brought your kids out there, to the players who participated, and we even had some vendors. Lizard Tech, who's based out of Georgia, came up to showcase some of their items that they do, like arm sleeves and gloves and things like that. And then Hold, Coach Harrison, who was one of our offensive line coaches, has his offensive line training company, and they had a booth set up. Let's make had concession stands. We had a icy, I think, Italian ice company. Their name slips my mind, but a lot of people said their stuff was really good. So thanks to all of them for their help and their participation. Big Eye football coverage, Ronnie Price. Yeah, I'd love to give it to you. I'd love to give it to you. Well, we'll try. We have tried, and we'll continue to try to get over there and get some Big Eye coverage. I tell you, I will say this. When I've asked people, do you want coverage? That's why we couldn't do the show the last couple of weeks, because there were so many people that wanted us to come out there and cover them. And we're really, what we do when we go to the schools, I like to watch practice and take pictures. Sometimes I'll sit back after taking some pictures. I'll sit back and watch certain kids, how they move, physically. Do they does the stats match what is on paper? Overall, kind of team execution, because you want to put some notes in your head for when you start trying to do league, projections and things like that. And then the interviews. The interviews are always cool with the kids, and some coaches like to talk. Some coaches, want to let the kids shine. I'm fine either way. But that's what really is the advantage about getting out to schools and seeing people up close. And I try to do that as much as I can, because I think there's a lot I could say about how high school football is covered, and how people can be kind of looked at from the way they do things. um I coached for 14 years, and I think the best way of going out, and if you're going to go out there and say things, you need to get out there and have something you can stand on. You need to have that relationship with coaches. They need to know that at least you're going out in person and evaluating the kids, and have a relationship with them too, because when you do this stuff, a lot of people will talk to you. And I say college coaches, high school coaches, um, parents and all that. And if you're not putting in, the time and the effort to go out and do these things, the right way, then when you stand up and you say something, nobody's gonna hear you or listen to you. So that's a big reason why I do what I do. So I appreciate you guys always watching and supporting CFI. Jason McRory, I appreciate that. I know who you are. I got to get over there. That wasn't. I couldn't get everywhere. You know, I did talk to Audrey Kell about getting over there, but the good thing is I put a post out. I am still trying to get to places this summer. I will tell you now, I'm going to some 7-on-7s. I'll be at West Meck for a couple 7-on-7s. Gaston County FCA 7-on-7. I will be at that most likely. There is a big 7-on-7 at Montgomery Central High School, kind of in the middle of the state. I will be at that. And even a couple colleges have reached out wanting some coverage, and I think that's cool. And I'll be at a couple colleges, kind of expanding the umbrella a little bit this summer. So get ready for a lot of that. Anthony McCullough, I appreciate that. Appreciate those kind words, man. So back to the kids. Let's talk about them. We had some more standouts. Wide receivers and tight end. Wide receivers, Demarius McCoy from Clayton High School. Man, what a kid, man. Really good speed. I saw him the week before. I was doing the Prep Red Zone showcase up in the Raleigh area at Clayton High School, as a matter of fact. And he was there, and he came to this one too. And, you know, I always talk to the coaches during the camp, and I asked about the receivers, and they said, the guy in the blue do-rag is catching everything. That's what he was wearing. We're going to talk about camp season do's and don'ts in a little bit, but one of them real quick is wear something that stands out. You see, all the kids had a number on, and his number was 37, but nobody called him 37. They said the kid with the blue thing. So once they said that, I knew what they were talking about. Dominic Testa from J.M. Robinson, once again, he's as steady as they come. Always great routes, great hands. We did another video just with the skill player one-on-ones. And our guy, Shaquan, who he's probably the most quietest member of CFI because he's never on camera, but he does a great job with photography, and he did a great job with videoing the one-on-ones between wide receivers and DBs. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. It's on our social media. I won't play it because it's pretty long, but he put the names of the matchups. He asked me for our internal numerical roster, and he matched up every name on that video. So you know who's going, and that takes a lot of work. I mean, that takes a lot of time. You know, you have to sit there, play it, stop, look up the number, input the name, make sure it looks good on the screen. You can't discount this video stuff. It is very, very, very time consuming. So if your son was a wide receiver or a DB, make sure you go check out that video because he did an amazing job. And you can see why the top wide receivers and the top defensive backs were named that, because you'll see them making plays throughout that. I think it's a 13-minute video. It's really good stuff. Curtis Helms Jr. from East Gaston, really good hands, good routes. Cameron Vance from Northwestern, slot receiver, kick returner, electric speed. I could say the same thing for Landon Gilmore from North Mecklenburg. He's been a kid I've watched for ever since he's a freshman. And now he's getting one into his junior year, and he's going to be a really big playmaker for the Vikings. And then the tight end, Cameron Jones from Clover, really good size kid, 6'3". You know, the coaches said, you know, he was really smooth. And I didn't know this about him until I started studying him. He's I think a 4.5-star long snapper as well. So you can long snap and play tight end the way Cameron did. You're gonna be on a lot of radars. And he got on some radars. That's for sure. Really good performance from those guys. The defensive back group, it's an exciting group. Austin Roberts from Chambers. People had told me about him. It was my first time seeing him up close. 2027 talented cornerback. Once he starts growing and getting older, he's going to be big time corner. Corey Parks from North Mecklenburg, 2024 player, did a good job. The home team, Amari Turner, He really played with some emotion. You see him in that one-on-one video I was talking about, doing a really good job. Zaheem Love from South Point, second time being a top performer at our camp. He was a top performer at the Winter Showcase. He got offered after the showcase by Charleston University. So congratulations to Zaheem, really talented player. He can also play some offense as well. Really good ball skills. Can do some things with the ball in his hands. And then Joshua Dickinson from North Mecklenburg. I really thought fast. He can run with anybody from what I saw on that film, and technically sound. Did an interview with him. I went to North Mech. That was one of the schools I visited and interviewed him and a couple of those kids that I'm going to talk about here shortly. And there's somebody here. Thank God.
What's going on, man?
Sir, what's up, man?
Just got in not too long ago. Said I hop in and join you and provide my little side comments.
Well, Karen Belk said great photography, so you're a part of that.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Glad to do my part and chip in on the camp portfolio. Thank you.
Your thoughts on the showcase from the time you were there?
Great effort overall. I don't think we've ever encountered a situation where kids were being slack. Very competitive. You don't have to really ask for that. Kids are going at it. Just that competitive nature just goes out, especially in the one-on-ones. So I think the kids did great. Made sure they got eyes on them. Definitely can't leave out the coaches to help make it all possible. Great energy, because that's what you need. The coaches have to bring some great energy because the kids feed off of that. So I don't think maybe we don't talk about that enough, that, we don't just need energy from the kids. I mean, that's a huge part of it, but the coaches, in their instruction, we need good energy from them. We need the scouts to be, engaged. So it's a group production show. Shout out to the kids, the college coaches that came out and the coaches that helped lead the kids, a group effort. But I think it was another successful promotion.
Yeah. And, before you came on, that's what, people were saying. Now, I will say this, for every showcase, you get a lot of, kudos, but everybody's not happy, all the time. Sometimes, when we do the top 5, in the video, I played the highlight video in the beginning. When you see me kind of yelling at the end of the video, what I was telling the kids was, that was right after we made the top 5 announcements. And I said, your goal when you come to the CFI camp is to perform well in front of college coaches, not to make top 5, because what we say are top 5 are kids that might have had a really good day, or kids that are, that have offers that didn't have a good day. It's about how you perform on that day. It's not about everything that you've done before then and what you're going to go on to do. So that's why I was really trying to drill that home. But even when I say that, there are still, some, parents and players that will say they felt like they should have been top 5. And
I think it's just it's a really hard lesson. That's just how sports work. Even in college, you may go on to win freshman all conference. You may not, but you may feel like you should have. You may feel your stats and your freshman performance, that doesn't go away. There's always going to be varying opinions on your performance, whether it be the coaches, the media. So use it as motivation. So if you don't win freshman all conference, okay, knock it out your sophomore year. Use that as fuel to the fire. But unfortunately, when you're dealing with opinions, that's just a reality, and it's just kind of a tough lesson, tough reminder. But don't let it, because I can assure you right now, there are kids who've gotten offers and accepted them and moved on that weren't top 5. So don't think those are the only 5 kids that's getting offers. There's a lot of them. So don't think, oh man, no one's gonna look at me if I'm not top 5. Definitely not the case. That's just recognition, but that doesn't mean you're out of the hunt. Not at all.
Yeah, for sure. So let me finish up the top performers here. Let's see. Linebackers. Yeah, now linebackers were so tough we took 6. I tried to tell the coaches, I said, we'll take 6. That's fine. Miles Hudson from J.F. Robinson. He's been a top performer before. Antoine Doyle Jr. from Vance County. Coming into this, I didn't know him that well, but really great size. Physical frame is really strong. He's got that long, kind of elongated, build that college coaches love, as far as building and adding weight and, keeping the speed and explosiveness that he has. Ryan Haley is his second time being a top performer. Well-spoken young man is going to be a leader of that North Mecklenburg defense, inside linebacker position. Camden Martin from Independence. I keep saying this kid's name. Like I write about this kid. Then he comes out here and he does a really good job. I think he's one of those kids that should be getting more attention, because when you see a kid that can play interior D-line and also play inside linebacker and do both of them very well, that's something special about that kid. Julian Platt from Rocky River, I'm really impressed with him. Great speed and space, and his leadership skills are off the charts. I saw that at Rocky River's practice. That's the kind of kid you want in your college football program. And then Mark Foster at West Mecklenburg. Several offers right now. He was the leading tackler in the Queen City Conference last year. Also interviewed him at West Mech. When we did the interview, I joked with him. I said, 3 years ago as a freshman, I interviewed him after they won a big game. I said, now it's coming full circle. Now here you're going to be a senior and we're interviewing you on the same field. It's crazy. And it's pretty cool. It's cool to see, these kids grow up and get better over time and get ready to move on to the next level. And I think that's all the positions. Yeah. So what was your favorite part about the showcase?
Myself, my favorite, literally the individual thing. Always the one-on-ones. I mean, because that's really where that's really where that energy comes out. The competitiveness, the fiery, the near fights. That's what that really comes up, man. And you pick up on little things, like you notice who's stepping up, getting extra reps, who's kind of hanging back a little bit. You notice those things, and well, at least I do. So, and I'm sure the scouts and everything out there notice that too. Who's eager for more reps, and stuff like that. So always the ones on one, because that's where the true competitiveness really comes out. So the last part, that ending part of the camp with the one-on-ones is always my favorite part to observe.
Yeah. And one of the things that I told the kids also at the end, I'm glad you said it, is the going to get your reps. At these things, you're evaluated, well, at least at our camp, you're evaluated in 3 phases. One is the agility circuit, where we're going around doing the different change of direction and explosion drills. 2 is the individual period. And then 3 is the one-on-ones. Now, when we get to one-on-ones, we try to manage it as best as we can. But I'll tell you this, any camp you go to is going to be the same setup. No coach is going to sit there and say, hey, you need to come up here and play. Because number one, no one's got time for that. Okay. And number 2, they're evaluating how bad do you want it. If you're just going to stand there and stand in the back, you're not ready to play college football. That's the purpose of the CFI camp, is to show you what college football is like in a very watered down sense. And, we have to put you on in the place, so college coaches can evaluate it, because you go to a college camp, I guarantee you're going to get called out for not going. For sure. And not in a good way. It's not going to be, hey, you haven't gone yet, come up here. It's going to be, hey, do you want to be a part of this? And if you don't, then why did you waste your time, waste your gas, waste your money to come out there? You can't sit back and wait. And that's why I said that in the video. You just can't do that. Yeah, here's the engine right here. That's the whole purpose of the agility circuit. To see how they move, how they change direction, can they explode out of a break? All those things. So yeah, definitely checking that out. Karen, yes. You must have saw the picture I put out on social media. Our dining room table is full of bags. And you know, the funny thing, I'll share this, and she may fuss at me about this, but I always give my wife has been a great supporter of the camps. She couldn't be there in person this time, so we came up with the snack bag idea to give to the coaches. And I gave her a certain budget to fill the bags up. So she went and got this Wagyu beef stick. And I said, why are you giving them a Wagyu beef stick? I said,
high-end stuff right there.
That's what I said. I said, how much does this cost?
That's high quality.
So anyway, no one said anything about it. She asked me when she got back. She said, anyone say? I said, no. Anyways, yes, she did help tremendously. We always try to do something for the coaches because I know they're out on the road, they go places, and 95% of these places don't give them anything. You know, I remember when I was calling colleges to see if they could come, and one coach asked me, do we have to pay? And I said, no. You don't have to pay to what? I said, is this what some camps are doing? They're asking colleges to pay to come scout kids? I said, are you crazy? I said, no, you don't have to pay. I said, I'm giving you a snack on top of that. So we made way too many. And I ended up giving out some to kids as they were coming off the field. So, you know, that, hey.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, in the Carolinas, yeah. I mean, I don't know about other places, but you know, I'm a little partial. Anyways, people will start saying stuff that I say that, but whatever.
Won't be the first time.
That's true.
I'm just saying.
Let's talk about let's see. I don't want to do that one. Let's do this. Talk about camp season do's and don'ts. We're getting ready to go into camp season. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, camp season is when colleges have their camps on campus and players can go to these camps and they can compete for potential scholarships. And it's really pretty much June and July is camp season. So going into this, I just talked about this earlier. Number one thing you should do is wear something that stands out, whether it's bright cleats, different colored cleats, a do-rag, like the kid had the blue do-rag I was talking about. Outside of your number on the back of your shirt, you got to do something or wear something that is going to make college coaches remember you. What would you do if you're going to a college camp to stand out?
If I was coming up in this era, I would definitely, yeah. Because, you know, things change over the years. Like you said, I would definitely have like some bright orange cleats, like that you can't miss. Mm-hmm. Probably some crazy colored gloves, something like that. Definitely colors. People can't, I mean, the human eye can't ignore colors, something bright like that. Even if it's just cleats that don't even match my team, my school, just some extra ones, just to the bright, you know, just to bring some attention, some crazy gloves, some kind of wristband, something just to not too extra, not too crazy, but something to say, okay, yeah, the kid with the orange cleats. You don't want to overdo it because then it's thinking like you're trying to rely on that. But Something bright colors. I think that's very easy. That's one of the easiest things you can do.
Yeah, I'll say, when we went, oh gosh, I'm gonna date myself. In 1998, we went to Atlanta because there were no camps in the Carolinas back then. Like you had to go to like a big city, and there was the Nike camp in Atlanta, and there was like 800 kids there. It was crazy.
That's huge.
But the thing I did, and I didn't even think about it, but it was smart. I wore one glove. I wore one glove that was like, fingerless, where, you had to like the cut out fingers or whatever. And I remember my coach would always remember me by it because he said, why you got that Michael Jackson glove on?
That's a team of mine, Michael Jackson.
So, something as easy as that, will make you, stand out. The engine's got some do's and don'ts here. He's got, 3 to 4 camps total max. Create your camp schedule with your head coach and your parents. Don't do anything that will put you in a negative light. If you're slow, don't run the 40. Yeah. I shouldn't have ran the 40 down there. I did. Make sure your head coach calls schools in attendance before the camp. Yeah, that's a good one. So they'll know to look out for you. And then, when you get there, introduce yourself. So those are some good ones right there from the engine.
You know what I like that Ken highlighted there? The head coach's involvement.
There right
there. You're meeting with your head coach. You're making sure that the coach is advocating you. So that just also shows what a good coach is supposed to be doing and helping his kids prepare for life after his own, after he's on his own team. So that's a great comment there.
Yeah. I've been seeing, and here's what I like, the 3 to 4 total max, because let's be honest here. If you're being recruited by, and I'm not going to, I'll say it. If you're being recruited by a certain D2 or D3 school, and they really like you, and you've got North Carolina, who doesn't know who you are? Why would you go to North Carolina and not go to the school that's been recruiting you? I see this all the time. Go where you're loved. Go where you're appreciated. Okay?
And get rid of the D1 or bust mentality. That's
that's
throw that out the window, man.
That's where I'm going with that. Because if you want to take a shot at maybe one dream camp, keep it at one. I mean, there are kids putting out their camp schedules right now. If I wanted to, I would put them on the screen, but I'm not going to do that. But there are kids, and they tag me in their camp schedules, and it's like 7 or 8 schools, multiple D1 schools, and they're not being recruited at that level. Like you're getting bad advice. Either that, or you're just trying to say that you're trying to put yourself on that level, but all you're doing is wasting your time and wasting your money. It's not about what it looks like on the outside. It's about reality. Where are you as a player? I mean, be real about that, man.
And don't let anyone shame you. Talking to the kids out there, don't let anyone shame you and think that you're a terrible player or you're subpar for being interested in looking at D2 and D3 schools. Like, that's nonsense. So there are probably plenty of guys out there that are probably maybe walk-ons in D1 that's probably sitting there thinking, man, wish I would have took that D2 offer that I turned down to come walk on over here or something like that. There is absolutely no shame in D2. You should be just as proud to be interested in or eventually accept, say, a D2 offer. There's nothing wrong with that. I get it. Kids, we all at some point, maybe we grow up and think about, running out the tunnel at Clemson or something like that. But at some point, reality sets in. And like you kind of said, you can use the offers and the coaches is reaching out as sort of a measuring stick. The coaches that you're getting, the letters you're getting, the calls, that kind of shows you where you are. And it's kind of going to sort it out at the top. So I think, and not all kids do it, but that D1 or bust mentality can get in the way sometimes. And think about it like this. Entertaining some D2 schools doesn't stop the D1s from coming. If you're meant to go to a D1, they're going to find you. So entertain everybody and then sort it out from there.
Well, I'm going to hit on what Jason McRory just said. What he's saying right there, there are some D1s that aren't taking freshmen. That's where we are with this transfer portal. I mean, you think about it. Think about schools in the past that have been very active in offering kids. And think about how some of these schools are, and Engine knows what I'm talking about. I'll put his comment up in a second. But there are schools out here, and I mean, they tell me straight up, we got to win. And we got to win right now. And their best chance of winning right now is winning recruiting battles in transfer portal, not taking high school freshmen, because most high school freshmen have to get themselves physically ready to compete on that level. And it's going to take a little bit of time. The ones that are ready are your high-end D1 players, the ones that, you already know. If I say certain names and, they're being recruited by every school in the nation. And on this show here coming up in a week or two, we'll talk about, the biggest names in Charlotte. And a lot of those names, will be ready to play, their freshman year. But what the Engine said here, there are D1s who barely didn't hit the recruiting trail this spring. And I mean, he knows it. He's in a high school. He's a head coach. There were some schools that were active, and then there were some that were hard to find that are in this area. I mean, it's just being real. They feel the pressure to win. And I mean, they're trying to, recruit for their own jobs. And I mean, let's be honest. If we were on pressure on our job and it depended on us winning, am I going to take a freshman that needs 2 years to develop? Or am I going to take somebody that is more ready in the transfer portal? I'm probably going to take the transfer portal kid, unless I feel real secure in my job. And there's very few coaches that are real secure in their jobs, especially now.
Yeah, that portal is a really interesting variable because, that's a recent thing and kind of adds another element. Coaches are wanting to offer kids, freshmen, high school kids, but then they're waiting. Okay, this guy in the portal, because the people in the portal are getting offers too, getting interest, and they're trying to make up their decision. So everybody's kind of waiting on everybody. So, well, if I can get this portal kid, if I don't, then I'll offer this freshman. So that's the rising freshman, I should say. So it's kind of interesting to think about that, and kind of all the more reason you shouldn't just pigeonhole yourself into this school or nothing, because you're competing against your other high school players and portal kids. So
tough. On top of that too, man, there are schools now that just plain and simple say, hey, we are giving portal kids 15 scholarships. Literally, you take a 30-man class, they cut it in half portal kids, half high school freshmen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, and this is what Ender says right here, that's why what we do at CFI is important, especially our showcases. And we know the schools that are recruiting high school kids because they came. And there are some schools that came strong, as we said, leading up to it. I'll tell you, Gardner Webb had multiple coaches there.
Oh, we see the schools. It's easy to see the schools that are consistently there.
Oh, yeah. Winston-Salem State, multiple coaches there. Johnson C. Smith, multiple coaches there. Howard, multiple coaches there.
Well, I'm starting to recognize people like, yep, he's here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, are there schools that we like more than others? Yeah.
I mean, plus the camp just makes their job easier. They can look at all these kids all at once, a few hours on a Saturday. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Last topic on the show tonight. There were some topics we were going to talk about. I'm gonna push some of those back when some of the guys will be back next week. But hey, Nikisha, good to see you. The last topic is going to be about summer practice. And I talked about this. Oh, wait a minute, I gotta get my stuff right. There we go. Yeah, so in the beginning of the show, I talked about where I was going to go this summer. And there's going to be a couple of schools watching 7-on-7s, some summer practices. But from a coaching standpoint, when you get into summer practice, this is the time I really like 7-on-7 because you're with your team, you're working with your guys exclusively, not the club 7-on-7 stuff. And you're able to start building that timing, and you learning how to read your main offensive plays and things like that. And that's when you really get to be able to evaluate what you're going to see on a Friday night, because what you do on Friday night is what's going to get you in to college, period. It's about your film. So I'm excited to get out to there and start that, evaluation process. Of course, one of the main things is getting kids in shape. One of the battles that I remember dealing with in coaching is, do we practice in the morning or do we practice in the evening? There used to be debates about that all the time. I think more high school coaches like to practice in the morning, get it over with before the heat really sets in. And then down here in the South with the thunderstorms, you're always worried about that with your evening practices. But sometimes with your staff, if they're working during the day, you can't go in the morning. So you got to go in the evening. But conditioning, timing, fundamental drills, you want to start introducing those even more in depth and refining things from spring practice during the summer. And then your attendance. You want to see who's really dedicated, man. June is pretty good, as far as summer goes. But then you get into July, the schedule gets all jacked up because of 4th of July. And then you got that dead week. And then after that, you come back 1 week and you got another dead week because of the state coaches clinics they do up in Greensboro every year. So June is really important. Getting off to a good start is the biggest thing that's important. When you think about summer practice and what we went through back in the day, a long time ago,
right?
It's a lot different now. But what are the biggest things you remember from summer practice?
Commitment, making sure you, depending on, for many of us who didn't, I didn't have like my own car in high school. So I was making sure, okay, I was on my own. Like, my mother was working, so it was up to me, making sure I got their workouts on time. There's a lot of independent aspects of it, making sure, I'm eating right, staying hydrated, getting there on time, find out either I'm getting a ride, I'm catching the bus, how am I getting there? It was up to me to manage all that. There was no one standing over me saying, okay, it's time to leave. Right. And this is probably the reality for many kids. And over the summer, if depending on what time it starts, your parents at work, it's up to you to get there, coordinate. Maybe your friends do have cars that you're going to ride with, but I think it shows, like you say, it shows who's dedicated. During the season, it's easy. You're already at school. So, of course, you're going to you're there for practice. But when you got to leave home and go to practice, and then you just got to make sure also you're taking care of your body, because summer heat ain't no joke,
Yeah.
Even with the rules and regulations in place. June is June, July is July. It's hot. Ain't no sugarcoating that, man. So you definitely making sure you staying hydrated, eating right, eating as good as you can expect from a high school kid, within reason. But you got to think about that. But I think it's individual dedication. Your parents are at work. Are you going to get to practice on time, whenever that is? And like you say, you see who's dedicated. Cream rises to the top. So,
Nikisha with a good point here. Going to bed on time, yeah. Getting your proper rest. And then if you're lucky enough to have a director of sports performance, they'll talk about that. They'll talk about your nutrition, staying hydrated, getting enough sleep. And one thing that I think people don't talk about enough is stretching. Before and after practice. We always are conditioned to do stretching before, but stretching after is really important because that gets the soreness out. You really kind of work your flexibility even more after you've done your workout. I know sometimes we used to do a cool down. I know a lot of teams don't really do that anymore, but sometimes we used to do a cool down period, and we did a post practice stretch period. Just to kind of keep those muscles loose, and it really helps prevent injury as well. So,
I don't think people in general stretch enough, from high school athletes to adults. No one stretches probably as much as they should.
I don't.
So I think I remember a friend of mine told me, she said she starts every day. So she gets up, she stretches. That was part of her morning routine. She gets up and makes sure she gets up early enough to devote 15, 20 minutes just to stretching every day. So just kind of tossing that in there, especially, I know we're talking about high school kids, but everyone, including them, could probably deal with stretching a little more.
Yeah, for sure. Karen, that was a topic we were going to talk about, but I'm going to push that off to next week. But there is and I've talked about this before, and trust me, I think if anyone can talk about this, it's me. The inequities in turf fields versus grass fields is a major deal, and we'll talk about it next week. But there's a lot to unpack there. I think CMS is trying to make changes, but they're not coming fast enough, unfortunately. But that being said, I started the show a little early, so we're going to end the show slightly early. I appreciate the engine chiming in on the comments. Of course, I appreciate you, producer, for being here and sharing some important information and important opinions. I appreciate everybody that's watching. And that's a good way to end the show. Thank you, Karen. The Harding Hall of Fame, that was a great experience. I'm so glad we were able to do that. As the Booster Club president at Harding the last 6 years, that was a goal of mine when we started Booster Club back in 2018. But a lot of people don't know, but years ago, I think it was 2012 or 2010, maybe. Anyway, there were some issues with the previous edition of the Booster Club that we had to get corrected. So we were in a hole, and it took a lot of time to get out that hole. And once we got out the hole, we were starting to able to raise funds, and we had to do a lot of catching up for Harding sports programs because they didn't have any support for 8 years. And it took a long time. We finally got the sports programs a decent place to where we could finally focus on doing the Hall of Fame. And, no matter what you do, people always feel like there's something that's wrong. When we selected the first class, I think a lot of people deserving, got recognized. And it was tough because you have to set a cutoff point at some point because you just can't let everyone in. It's a Hall of Fame for a reason. So that was a start. There's going to be, future classes and more people recognized going forward. There is video, and it'll be out hopefully this weekend. And when you get the video and you see the reactions of the people that were honored and what they said, it was incredible. It was an incredible night. And I can't wait for that video to become public because it really meant a lot. And that was the goal. That was the goal. Is to celebrate people while they're here. And they know how much they're appreciated. So, Karen, thank you for sharing that. On that note, thank you for watching Football Focus Weekly. Pep Man Matt Morrow. We'll see you next week. Have a good week.
Signing off. See you soon.